This is my very first violin, and today we're going to look at it, rate it, what I would do better nowadays if I would start again. Wow, very interesting. Hello, back again. This is Edgar from Cremona, Italy. We build instruments, nice ones every day, great sounding ones. This is my last one, the Cremonese, and Christian had a great idea. Let's rate your first violin. I'm very happy that I have here, borrowed from their owners, my parents, my very first violin. Otherwise, I probably would have given it for free to somebody who needed a violin for nothing and an apple. Yeah. When I look at it, I'm getting red. I have it here already for a long time. I don't show it to anybody when they come. The scroll has a long story for me. It took me weeks, maybe even months. And for the entry exam of the violin making school, I put it into my jacket. And since I was not able to talk Italian, I took it out the scroll and showed what I did. Now, when I look at it, I feel ashamed. If I compare it to my last scroll, 40 years of violin making, the difference, yeah, just how it turns, how it looks, and wow, it's just really a huge difference. For somebody who is not in the trade, it's just the same. The scroll reunites all the tools and is your fingerprint, your signature. And here you can see the pain I went through. It was just so hard to make this first violin. I made it with a French violin maker, Vaughn, helped me, and I could work with him, a very funny guy, still busy in France. I met him a few years ago. The joint of the bag, it took me, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. And then at the very end, after I glued it in and it was closed, I couldn't use the piece anymore because the bag became too narrow, so I had to take another one. Once I jointed the bag and I made everything, I remember that I was making the arching, no idea how it should be, and now it's very low. Look at it, damn, it's really a low arching. It's almost no arching anymore. I just played away everything. The purfling, look at these corners. Here, look at these corners here. They look like, I don't know, the line comes together and then one black thing is just going on. There is no concept at the outline itself, no concept at all. It looks like a violin. It is, I would say, if somebody walks in with a violin like this and says, Edgar, what do you think? Look at it and say, this is a very amateur maker, no instruction, no violin making school. I would have never said that this is made by Edgar in Cremona, Italy. Yeah. And nowadays, if you look at something like this and somebody walks in who makes a violin making school, you would just say, damn, quit it immediately and get a real job. Don't waste your time. The main reason for that is actually that I didn't have enough instruction. The whole video came up, the idea, when people who come here frequently show me their instrument and ask me what could I do better. One of this is this Japanese girl, Haruna. She's making now the violin making school. She's not here, she is in the violin making school, but she comes frequently to our workshop. Small girl, tick, 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 and shows me the pieces. The way how she does it is actually the best way to learn here in Cremona. You take an apartment, make your living. She makes the violin making school. She takes a few years of her life. I think it's now 4 years of violin making school. And then you live here, and then you take what the town offers you, and you pass by one maker to another. So she showed up that she made, I think, the ribs, and she was just at the point where she had to make the outline of the violin. Just look at that outline of this violin. She did it all by herself. I didn't touch anything, and this is the very first violin. It's not a superb violin, but it's actually, for somebody who does it all by itself at home, but has a master where she can go and ask and show and look, and we explain and we sign if there are bumps, and we'll do a nice outline, especially the archings. If you look at these archings, this is just an arching which could already be a super arching. It's not varnished yet, but the arching is just a perfect arching. You cannot complain anything. Even here, this detail in these areas, a nice Italian arching, yeah? A very good one, which is definitely good at vibrating. Even on the top here is pretty much okay. Even the neck setting is okay, is perfect how it should be. It still has to be cleaned up. She just finished here. The neck setting, the violin is not finished, is not rounded here. Still has to clean, make everything. She did her best up to that point because she had somebody next to her. A little bit similar, like if you are now, let's say, a student of my violin making academy, this online academy, it's a very similar way. You look at the videos and then you put it into reality and you can make your questions. And this is a little bit the way which I actually wanted to point out, that if you have somebody who's helping you and giving you the right advice, the first violin could look already pretty good and doesn't turn out like mine, which I was completely, this Christoph Wagner, who was actually very young as well. He was just in his 20s, and I was just maybe 3, 4, 5 years younger than him. And he explained me a little bit, but more or less he borrowed me his tools. And I could just make my first violin. It was actually very kind of him. He was not in that situation yet to give me instruction. Now I think he's even a teacher in France, in Montpellier, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. You have to imagine, if you have the right master next to you, it even happened in the past that somebody at the violin making competition won the competition against people who had experience like 30 or 40 years because they made their first instruments so good. But this is then certainly, there's a certain ability, craftsmanship, a certain way of thinking. Very often these people are very insecure and they just don't want to make something bad. So they, from the very first moment, they want to make perfection. They take 1, 2, 3 years to make their first violin, and it turns out something super clean. Personally, I don't like it that much if it's so clean and they don't even see any fingerprint. I love it a little bit, something that you could imagine there is a human being behind. The whole violin making has changed over the years, and our idol is not anymore this perfection. On violin making competitions, they still have these rules which are from the past, and I think they should upgrade it a little bit. A good violin should be a personal thing where you put in a little bit your personality, and the personality is always visible because of tiny imperfections. Yeah, I think this is a great first violin with somebody who gives you the right advice at the right moment. So the bass bar, the thicknesses, the arching, the neck setting, the fingerboard, the neck, everything. So this instrument, once it is finished, I think will sound pretty good. And I can hear already it sounds good. Yeah. As a conclusion, looking at my violin, which I made the hard way a little bit with someone who just was willing to ask me at his home, at his working bench, and then at the very end, not giving me the final, the right instruction, I would say, you want to build an instrument? I would probably get more instructions. The best thing is to come to Cremona, live here, and stop by all the makers and ask a little bit advice. And this is actually probably the most expensive way to learn violin making. Nowadays, there are new methods, new possibilities, and probably the most economic way, even so it costs, is probably my online violin making academy, where you can see how I make from the very beginning to the very end a violin step by step, and you get every single tiny instruction and tips, tricks and warnings in the right moment, what could happen and how you could prevent it, that it happens and makes a damage. Tell your friends and subscribe. Let me know how you made your first instrument, or if you made it, or if you want to make it, and how you want to proceed. Ciao, ciao.